Hi, and welcome to She's the Boss, the show that is all about female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. Now, I'm so excited today because my guest is Bobbi Mahlab. Now, I've got a big, long list of things that Bobbi has done. She's the founder and chair of Mahlab Media. She's the co-founder of Mentor Walks, which I want to hear lots more about. She's a board member, entrepreneur, content marketing expert, a winner and judge of countless awards. I would list them, but there's too many. She's been awarded the Order of Australia in 2020 for her contribution to women, publishing and philanthropy. So welcome, Bobbi.
Thank you. Delighted to be here with you.
What a huge list of accolades. Let's start with what you're doing now. Do you want to tell us what you're up to?
Sure. My day right now is focused really on three things. Mentor Walks, which I'm keen to tell you all about.
Yes.
Which is a growing program that makes mentoring accessible to women everywhere.
It's amazing. I'm dying. Actually, let's just talk about it. Tell us a little bit about how that all works.
All right. So Mentor Walks is about very senior women from very diverse industries, all who want to help other women succeed. And the program matches walking with talking. So we all know walking and talking comes extremely naturally to women.
Yes.
There is a lot of science behind the benefits of being outdoors and walking. So all our events, we do virtual events too, but the in-person events all take place in iconic locations. So, for example, at Sydney, they meet at the steps of the Opera House. In Melbourne, it's around the Tan. In Brisbane, it's by the river. In Canberra, it's Lake Burley Griffin. Perth, it's by the river, and on it goes. So we have this extraordinary group of senior women from all sorts of diverse industries who come to our events for that 1 hour where we match them with up to 3 mentees. And they're all women who are at different stages of their career. They could be 2 years out or they could be 30 years out of whatever university or school or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they're all people who are seeking some sort of guidance or clarity about an issue that they have. And that issue could be anything, big or small. It could be I'm struggling to balance work or family, or there's a particular job I want and I need help working out how do I position myself best for that, or I have a boss that I really don't think is managing me very well. Sometimes it's I don't know how to plan my day. So one person's small issue is another person's big issue. So no issue is big or small. And what these incredible mentors do is they use their lived experience to help other women step forward. So in the time that we've run Mentor Walks in Australia, and I'll tell you the history of how we got it here, which is now 4.5 years, more than 3,500 women have come to one of our events. And
wow, that's just huge. That is so many women that you're helping.
It is, and our ambition is that 25,000 women will have participated in our events by 5 years.
Fantastic.
And the mentors are really some extraordinary women. They're all extraordinary women, but people like Elizabeth Gaines, the CEO of Fortescue, Naomi Simpson, the well-known entrepreneur, Odette Excel, who's been Philanthropist of the Year and onwards, this great social entrepreneur, and Michelle Guthrie, the former head of ABC. So all of them, they're not all, have extraordinary job descriptions like that, but they're all women with really incredible lived experience that they want to share to help other women step up and forward.
That's so amazing. And the fact that those high-profile women that you mentioned are wanting to give back, I love that. I love it that it's a two-way exchange, because for a lot of women, they do reach a certain level of success and say, how can I now help other women to get where I am, which I just love that whole philosophy.
It is. And look, one of the things that's so great about what we're doing is the simplicity of the idea that you come for 1 hour, it's group mentoring, and it is absolutely phenomenal what happens on that 1 hour, because great care is taken to make sure every mentee in the group has time. And what the mentees find is that not only get help with their own question, but they find they can make a great contribution to other people's issues and questions. And so at the end of each event, there's this enormous kind of great sense of excitement, because everyone's realised no matter what stage they are at their career, they actually can make a contribution to others. And we all know that one of the essences of happiness is being able to contribute to others.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a gorgeous idea. So you mentioned you'll tell us how it came here. Was it
Yep.
not your idea originally? Did you bring it to
No,
Australia?
Adina Jacobs, who is the co-founder, and I brought it to Australia, and we came across it because both Adina and I are alumni of Ernst and Young's Entrepreneurial Winning Women program.
Right.
Every year they select 15 women from around Asia Pacific who are running businesses with global scalability, and they invite them to be part of this one-year program.
Oh, wow.
And you meet women from all over APAC, and an extraordinary cohort. And I was on the first intake and Adina on the second. And her intake met in Shanghai, and I was invited to speak at that conference.
Right.
And at the conference was a really wonderful woman called Michelle Garneau, who is responsible for introducing fine dining to China. She's a Melbourne girl who's lived in China for 30 years and has an
Wow.
iconic restaurant in Shanghai called M on the Bund. And it so happened that the day after our conference ended, she was running a mentor walk in Shanghai. So very early in the morning, Adina and I got into this rickety old cab. We went to this park. God knows we're in the middle of Shanghai. We joined the walk. I went with one group. Adina went with another. And in that 1 hour, I had met, in my small group of 4 people, I had met 2 women who really gave me fantastic insights and contacts to the question I was there to answer was, should I take my business into China? So in that 1 hour, I'd had access to these fantastic contacts. And that really is one of the reasons mentor walks is so important, because one of the things that women traditionally aren't so great at is building their networks. I think a lot of women see networking as a dirty word, and actually what networking is building your community. And from building your community,
and making friends, of course, that can do that journey and are in the same position as you.
Exactly. And those peer-to-peers are so important to all of us, as well as mentoring from people who are more experienced and mentoring from people who are younger from us, because there's a great place for reverse mentoring as well. So that idea about growing your community and making sure that you make the time to go and meet other people, I think is incredibly important to all women. And men traditionally have had more avenues to do that, and in some cases more time, because they traditionally haven't gone home to look after the kids or have the caring responsibilities. So I really encourage women to take every opportunity they can to do that and build their communities and see it as a positive rather than going out and selling themselves.
Well, absolutely. And you know, networking is, it's a funny word actually for something that we do naturally anyway. If you walk into a room, you want to introduce yourself, you want to hear what they're up to. So it's kind of, you know, sad that it's got that reputation, but fantastic what you're doing. Yeah. So now tell me a little bit about Mahlab and what, is it Mahlab? Sorry, the name of your business,
yes,
Mahlab Media.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit about that as well? Because that's a pretty unique model from what I can see.
It is. Look, the story of Mahlab really for me is a story of joy, and it's a story of a mindset where we have constantly embraced change and transformation. So I launched that business 23 years ago when there was just me sitting in a room with exposed bricks that I called the pizza oven, with a phone and a fax and a desk and not a single client, sitting there thinking about the word income. In it comes, oh my goodness, I have to make it come in, right? And you know, when you started a business from nothing, as I'm sure you have too, clients are so precious, and really, you know, without great clients, you don't have a business. So
that's right.
So I started Mahlab in a pre-digital age, and we started as custom publishers. So my background is as a journalist, and I'd also worked in publishing for a few years.
Yes, I want to hear a bit more of that afterwards. But keep going. Yeah, tell me more about Mahlab Media.
So I started it to be a custom publisher that would work with major brands to create beautiful magazines that would help their customers.
Okay, right.
And so, of course, it was pre-digital. And within a couple of years, we saw an opportunity. I'm in Sydney. Pyrmont was a very fast developing area of Sydney, and there was no local media. So we launched a local newspaper, a local newspaper in Pyrmont, one in for CBD residents, and that in itself was a journey. And I ended up selling those newspapers and going back to the core of the business, which was creating content to help the customers of brands, but very much from a customer-centric point of view. What can a brand help give to the customer or the client so that they can be better or help them with what they do? And it was always a case of working with companies to say, don't just talk about yourself, actually identify what your clients and customers might need.
Because it's all about stories, isn't it? It's all well and good. And there is such a tendency with businesses to say, this is what we do, this is our process, not actually take you on a journey of maybe a customer and how they've experienced the business.
That's right, Jules. And so what Mahlab is at heart is customer-centric storytellers. And
Fantastic.
Now, of course, with digital, we do that in every way, whether it's video or infographics or podcasts or, written still. In every format, we are helping customers through storytelling. And that's been a really, really fabulous journey.
And I guess as stories are now kind of on everyone's lips, has the business really started growing over the last, I mean, obviously it's been big anyway if you've been going for 23 years, but I just hear stories everywhere now. That's kind of like the new black, the new word that everyone's using. Have you found that it's really impacted on your business?
Look, our business is growing really strongly, and it's always been a sustainable and a very, very healthy business. But right now it is on steroids for all the reasons that you say. And we expanded into PR, which I know is close to your heart.
It is, yes.
A handful of years ago, because we could see very clearly that PR needs to be more content-led. It needs to be more story-led. And that has been also a really successful avenue for us.
Fantastic. I just love the sound of it. It's amazing. Okay, so now what I'd love you to do, if you're up for it, is let's go back to Bobbi when she was maybe in high school or university and tell me how your career has evolved.
Okay, when I was in high school, firstly, I absolutely hated high school. I was a very, very dark teenager. I think if I'd known about goss at that time, I would have been one. But one of the things that really influenced me was I had work experience when I was about 16, and I went to a small book publishing company called McPhee Gribble, and they published Monkey Grip and a few other really seminal titles at that time. Yeah. And they were very, very smart people working in a terrace in Carlton in Melbourne, doing really interesting, great work. And I think seeing the dynamic of that small business and seeing how smart and interesting those people were, that really, really did inspire me and sent me on a publishing kind of avenue. Even though book publishing has never been my thing, broader publishing and media very much has. So when I finished school, I did an honours degree at Melbourne University. I specialised in history. I was really fascinated with the history of ideas. And my thesis in my fourth year was a case study of the development of the Melbourne City Square, if you can believe it. But
my God. I think about that a lot because it has changed so much in the last 20, 30 years. So you interviewed all the people in Melbourne that were involved with the square. Yeah. Why did that give you a love of oral history?
Because I realised how much I loved interviewing people and how much I loved pulling out the themes and telling the stories. And that really set me on a path where I thought journalism would be a fantastic career because by nature I'm very curious. I really like people and I like finding out about them and finding out what they think. And I think one of my abilities is to ask questions, just like you. You're clearly very good at it.
I love doing it myself.
Very good at it too. Yeah, so I love it as well. And so I actually went overseas for a year. I lived in New York. That was to find family because my father is a New Yorker and I wanted to meet all his relatives.
Wow. So how old were you when you did that? Is that sort of something that you did straight out of school or when you finished your master's?
That was straight after university. And,
and New York, how fabulous.
It was fabulous. And, it was hard because I had to find my way in a big city
It is
And
very tough to be new in a city. I mean, I remember going to London and thinking, I'm an outgoing person. I'm going to be able to make friends really easily. And it really took almost a year, a
yeah,
very lonely year,
yeah.
before you have met people enough times that they become close friends.
Yeah, and you have to work out the infrastructure of the place. It really
That's right.
is hard to do, but really great to do. And I worked as a Girl Friday with a corporate communications company who sent me from everything to pick up their owners' dry cleaning to researching and writing. And then when I came back to Australia, my very first job was with a marketing company as a traffic person. And it was the classic story. There were two jobs going, a traffic person and an account executive. They gave me the junior traffic job. They gave him the account executive. I worked super hard. Eventually, I ended up with that role, and it showed me what really focused hard work can do.
Right.
But after a while, I really wanted to be a journalist. So I knocked on every door in Melbourne I could. I freelanced as much as I could to create a portfolio. And eventually I was offered a graduate cadet at the Melbourne Herald in the business section. And
wow, Melbourne Herald. That was the evening
Herald
newspaper, wasn't it?
It was. And that was really one of the best experiences of my life. It was not only was it great fun, and you were surrounded by extraordinarily engaged, funny, smart, clever people, but it was at a time where business was booming. There were a huge number of stories out there. It was really great. And
newspapers were everything. I think I worked there roughly around the same time as you, actually.
Oh, fantastic.
My first job was I was plucked out of nowhere to be trained to be a supervisor in the classifieds department, which I have to say I loathed. But, these kind of experiences are great for us. So how long were you working? How long did you end up working there?
I think I went from there to the launch of the Sunday Age in Melbourne.
Right.
And that was really a seminal experience for me because the Sunday Age launched without knowing who its readership was. It had a different masthead to the Daily Age, and they launched as a competitive strike against News Corp, who also launched a Sunday newspaper.
Was that around the time that Warwick Fairfax was having all that hoo-ha as well?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, right.
But what was so fascinating about that experience, and it taught me a lifetime of lessons, was that when you don't have a really clear idea who you're creating content for and who you're writing for, it is very difficult to do it well. And I was sent one Saturday morning to cover a story at Pentridge at jail, and the guy at the gate said, "Oh, you're from the Sunday Age. I so love your newspaper." And I thought, "Oh, I've met one of my readers. This is fantastic." And it changed. But it also showed me that much as I love journalism, I love the whole concept of media. And after that, I went much broader in my career. I'm really interested in the business of media, and I'm interested in business. And so my career took a different direction.
Okay, so where did it take you? What was next after The Age?
After The Age, there was the guy that had been the editor at the Melbourne Herald had started a small publishing company that was doing super innovative, interesting things. And I thought, I want to work with you. In your career, sometimes it's all about who you work with.
Yes,
and
100%.
Learn the most. So I felt that organisation was the most interesting media organisation in the country. And I went and knocked on their door and said,
"Can you tell me what it was called?"
It was called Text Media.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, who subsequently sold to Fairfax years later.
Yeah.
They asked me to give them a one-page document saying why I wanted to work with them. So I sweated over this document, and clearly they liked what they saw. And I spent 5 years working with them. And it was a terrific experience because when you work with a really high-growth company like they were, and you're at a time of your career where you're ready for challenges every single day, night and day, it meant that over the 5 years I was with them, there were a huge amount of opportunities, and I just kept going from great thing to great thing to great thing and learning at every step.
That's amazing. And also the beauty of starting with a smaller company is that you, at the beginning, I assume anyway, start doing a lot more jobs. As companies get bigger, your roles get defined more and more, as in this is the bit that you do, but it's kind of a bit more all hands on deck when it's a smaller business. So did you find that you got lots of experience in lots of other areas as well as writing?
I did. And the other thing that was really important was that you saw what to do, but you also saw what not to do in starting a business.
Which is so important.
So when I started Mahlab, I was super conscious of having really robust financial systems in place,
Right.
which sounds so boring, but is so important.
It sounds so practical to me.
Yeah, it is. So there were lessons observed like that about the infrastructure that a business needs, even a tiny one, that were really, really important. So I think when I started the Mahlab business, we were able to avoid some of the issues that other startups have, just because I'd seen what had happened elsewhere.
Okay, so I cannot let that go by without asking you, what happened and what did you learn from it?
Well, for example, there was a junior accountant who I think at that stage in that business was the only accountant who our freelancers were complaining they weren't getting paid.
Right.
And I saw him open his drawer and it was literally stuffed full of freelance invoices.
Oh my God.
So instead of paying them or giving them attention or putting them in the system, he was just stuffing them in the drawer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, there's a good lesson. And you've got to pay your staff. That's the first thing that you want to do, particularly if your business is based on writing.
Yeah.
Wow. Any other great insights you learned from that? And I'm assuming that Mahlab then was straight after Text Media was when you went and set it up, right?
Yeah.
So what was the impetus to make that jump and decide that, look, I could do this and I've got an idea for doing this in a slightly different way?
Yeah, well, firstly, I really loved I was the publishing director of the business, the custom publishing business in Sydney.
Right.
I really, really loved that business. We were working with companies like Microsoft and Optus and creating really, really terrific work. And it was also very profitable work. And I'd been very instrumental in developing those accounts and so forth. And a whole confluence of things happened at that time where it was time for me to go. And I could have gone and joined another business.
Yeah, as a lot of other people would have done.
Yeah, and, I spent 6 months thinking, what am I going to do? And then I thought, I think now's the time to launch your own business. You know that you've got the skills it takes to at least win some clients to start. And also another important thing for me was I was at a stage of life where I wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
And I had
which is important. You've got to try and fit that in somehow as well.
You do. And I had my mother's voice in my ear. And she had said to me, if you want true flexibility, running your own business is the best way to get that.
Oh, wow. Why did your mum say that's amazing? Because my mother was busy saying, get a job, get a job.
Yeah.
Why was your mum like that? Did she run her own business or had she?
My mother is a very she's a businesswoman. She's an entrepreneur. She is a well-known feminist. Particularly, she was one of the founders of the Women's Electoral Lobby. She was formerly a lawyer. She's had a very, very terrific career herself and very varied and quite. The household I grew up in was really quite different to most of my friends. And I had quite a high-profile mother, a father that really, really carried his weight around the household. And they were
great role models for you.
I had terrific role models.
Yeah, you're so lucky to have parents like that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and also I look around now and this is 20, 25 years ago. And I'm so happy that things for a lot of women, not all women by any stretch of the imagination, is different now, and many more workplaces offer flexibility, which I think is what all people need. I think the idea of balance is absolutely a red herring. What you need is flexibility. And one of the things I'm really proud about at Mahlab is that we are flexible, and we have been for years and years and years.
What do you mean by that? What sort of things do you do for your staff?
I think I'll give you an example. Our CEO came back from maternity leave to be CEO. She had, at that stage, a 9-month-old and a 4-year-old, and that's very typical in our staff.
Right.
Her oldest child was starting school recently, and she's having trouble acclimatising to school. And at drop off, it's really difficult. And so the CEO is struggling to get into work on time because she has
She needs
this
to be
issue.
there to give cuddles and sort of
Yeah.
settle her daughter in.
So the conversation was there, just tell everyone that for the next 2 weeks or longer if you need it, you're not going to start your day to 10. So
Yeah,
you can take whatever time you need. And whether or not she chooses to do that, the freedom to think that way and to know it's okay, I think is really a game changer for everyone.
I think so too. Just to give that permission. I mean, because it doesn't, I mean, it's up to her how she wants to juggle it, whether she needs all that time. But for you to say, take it if you need it, is so empowering.
It is. And, it took me a while to realise that what I'd done at Mahlab was I'd actually created the workplace I wanted to work at.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's not just about flexibility. That's in a number of things that absolutely speak to our culture. And that's been a really great journey.
So can you tell me what they are? What are the important things that for you working in a company that you wanted to see that you've now implemented?
Yeah. One of our mantras in here is that you say hello when you come in the morning.
Just simple things like that. That's gorgeous.
Simple things like that. And I cannot tell you over the years how many people have worked here have come to me and said that was really important, because it means everyone starts the day with a smile and acknowledgement.
Yes.
And there are too many places where people just slip into their chair and there's no
interaction.
There's no interaction and there's no celebration of them being there in that very tiniest way. So,
aren't you a lovely boss to even say that you want to celebrate that your people are there? I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think, it's a really small thing that actually makes a very
huge difference.
Yeah.
And what other things? Sorry, keep telling me.
One of our core values is about curiosity. I firmly believe that the reason Mahlab has been so successful over so many years and not only survive but thrive when a lot of media companies haven't embraced that digital transformation is because we are curious and it is the DNA of a journalist to constantly be asking what's going on, what are the trends, what aren't I asking that I should. So that kind of constant questioning and being curious about people, about the world, all of those sorts of things, I think it really keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, it just sounds great. So in the course of 23 years, which is, I know, a huge amount of time, have there been some pivotal moments in the business where you've shifted, changed the direction, maybe because of something that has happened that you wouldn't have expected, but you've learned a lot and you've looked back and gone, so glad that happened? Have you had any experiences like that you can tell me about?
I can tell you about two.
Great,
lots. In the early days, I had a partner in the business and after about 4 years, we decided to part ways and it was difficult at the time. And I was also 6 months pregnant with my second child. So I made the decision at that time to downsize the business. That's when I sold off all the local newspapers.
Right, yeah.
And so I made the decision that for my sanity and for lifestyle reasons, it was better to run a more simple, smaller business. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in other people's definitions of success.
Yes.
And one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given was to explore what your own definition of success is. And that varies at different parts of your life. And that's why flexibility is important, because what you need when your kids are tiny is different from when your kids, say, are 16 or 17.
Absolutely.
If you have an parent who needs caring or whatever it is, or you're in a...
Or maybe your pet. I mean, there's people now who, as we know, the idea of fur babies, which someone said to me yesterday, I hate that term, but it is that love, that you've got for whatever it is that's in your life that... you need to be able to tend and nurture, because that's just as important.
That's right. Or it might be your jiu-jitsu practice. I mean, we're all more than just our work. So
thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So that's one time when I changed the business radically. And
what did it do to the business? Did it, by making it smaller, did it change something about the business as well?
It actually really helped us because we had diversified too early in our business journey. So it helped us focus, and I think it was really important to our ongoing success. And then the second really clear time where I changed the direction of the business a lot was probably about 10 or 11 years ago now, where media was changing dramatically because of the advent of digital. And I went to a very intensive, long, expensive course run by Americans who were teaching legacy publishers about digital publishing. And I sat in that course and I literally came out, I went in with my head facing one way and I came out with my head facing the other way. And quite honestly, nothing in the Mahlab business has ever been the same since.
Wow, why? What were the key things that you took away from that?
The key things were I had identified all these things that we needed to become expert in. Everything from understanding what search engine optimization was to how you identify taxonomy to all kinds of different things.
Right.
It was then that we firmly went from being custom publishers to being content marketers, and Mahlab has been a pioneer of content marketing in Australia. And I think that course was the linchpin that made me see that as the future and embrace it.
Amazing. I just wish that all the people who work in newspapers and magazines had gone along as well.
Yeah.
Because I often look at them and think, wow, they really didn't keep up with it all. They just didn't innovate fast enough, I don't think.
No, I agree with you completely. And so that's why I said earlier, when I think of the story of Mahlab, it's a story of embracing change and often leading change.
And curiosity. I mean, I just love all the words that you use around the business as well, because it's so important. Wow, Bobbi, what an incredible story and what an incredible career. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. Now, if anybody wants to do the mentoring walks, what's the best way for them to be able to join up, either as a mentor or as a mentee?
Okay. So to come as a mentee, the website is mentorwalks.com.au. You'll find all the locations we're in and you just sign up online. And for mentors, they come through our other mentors. So that's a referral process.
Right.
But would love everyone to come. And we're also running virtual walks. So during COVID, we pivoted all walks to virtual. It was enormously successful.
Can I ask what you mean by that? Because I know during lockdown, one of the things that I did with some friends who were in Geelong, because I'm in Melbourne, was we did a Zoom walk where we chatted to each other. We still walked, but we chatted to each other on Zoom. Is that what you did?
It's what we did, but without the walking, because the quality of the sound wasn't good enough. But we got everyone to sit next to something green. But what it allowed us to do is include regional and rural women.
Huge.
So we're still every few weeks, every 8 weeks, we're running virtual walks, as well as the monthly and bi-monthly in-person walks that are everywhere else.
That's wonderful, because I know through She's the Boss, I've been doing founder lunches every week. And one of the things that's made a huge difference is because it's on Zoom, that the girls who live in outback New South Wales and outback Queensland are saying, oh my God, I never get this opportunity. So what you're offering now is this fantastic mentoring walks that people can do all over the place, which is, you know, really important for us to sort of support our regional sisters, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Wonderful. And then now the other thing is, what's the best way to get hold of you if somebody wants to have something to do with Mahlab Media?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn.
Right.
Just message me. I'd be delighted to hear from them.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Bobbi, thank you so much for this interview. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I'm now going to go and look up Mahlab Media and see more about what you do. So I'm hoping that other people watching will do the same.
Thanks, Jules.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.